Hey everyone, it's Ryan. Welcome back to another live Thursday night show here. As everybody sees, we've got the Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust logo already queued up at the bottom. We've got an absolutely fantastic Christmas show with Saka Claus here, and we're going to be talking about all the giveaways that we're doing. But before we do that, huge shout out to all the sponsors that remotely make this show possible here in the Smokin' Studios. Obviously, Smokin' being a huge supporter of this show. Jump over to them, smokin.com, and they have the entire array of Steve Saka or Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust cigars that you can pick up. But we've got BAMF Cigars, ROCF Cigars, 15% off promo code in the description below. Kristoff Cigars, Karen Berger Cigars, Sagrado Cigars, New Air Humidors, another 15% off promo code down below. I get nothing for these promo codes. I make absolutely nothing. I ask for them for you guys to be able to go and shop and shop and shop. Christmas is literally next week. If you're still looking for stuff, these are some great choices. Micallef Cigars, Big Sky Cigars, Cornell and Diehl Pipe Tobacco, Aurora Cigars. Tonight, I will be drinking bourbon, and they were going to go with the classic Axe in the Oak bourbon whiskey tonight. And as always, thank you so much, Steve. Let's go ahead and bring on the man of the hour. He doesn't talk very much. He's the mysterious guy, not to be seen on too many shows. How you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing well. So I got to ask you, before we kind of dive into this thing here, what's your show tally for the year so far, you think?
Oh, I'm going to say, I don't know the answer, but see what you guys, so you see the ones that are public, right? But I also do like a lot of private ones with like small cigar groups. You know, they have like 40 or 50 or 100 members, and, you know, and I'll get invited to do those, but they're never like, they're never shared anywhere. I don't know how they connect with one another, Reddit, or they got some sort of like Discord, or there's so many ways that people talk online. I can't even keep track anymore, but I do a lot of these, probably upwards of 30, I bet.
Okay. So is your New Year's resolution next year to double that quantity?
No, I hope not. I always feel bad for the people. I see a lot of the same faces, or at least names. They watch a lot of the episodes that I'm on, a lot of the podcasts and whatnot. I mean, they're gonna be just so sick of me. I mean, because it's really hard not to be repetitive, redundant, repeat yourself, and I just I don't know. So I'm always trying to come up with something different to say, which then leads me into saying a lot of extra stupid shit because you've just run out of all those smart things to say, which then just causes its own sense of problems. But I don't know. People keep inviting me on, so I guess you guys are desperate for content. I don't get it. I mean, there's definitely a lot more attractive, entertaining people than me out there.
You know what it is? It's the nonchalantness by how you describe things, and it's the fact of your brutal honesty that we appreciate. When we know when we ask you to come on, if the answer is no and that's the end of it, it's just going to be no.
You know what's weird about that though? It's just even the term brutal honesty. I mean, why is honesty ever brutal? Isn't just honesty? You know what I mean? But the fact that, and look, it's not, but that's the way we now describe it because we're so used to people not being completely honest, right? That we have to have an extra degree to actually explain when someone's being honest. And we use terms like, oh, brutal honesty. You know what I mean?
But I also think that it's people have become soft and honesty hurts their feelings. People don't like to acknowledge the truth that might be around them.
Well, I also think there's a difference too. I don't have a boss, right? I mean, look, I'm married, so I have a boss. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? But I don't have a boss that can fire me, right? So, and look, most of the people that are, that do these programs, they're one tier, two tiers, 8 tiers down from the person that's in charge. So they got to be sensitive about, I wonder what my manager's going to think. I wonder what my VP is going to think. I wonder what my owner is going to think, what my president's going to think, right? If I say something really whacked or stupid, or I make some sort of off-color joke, that it's going to rebound back on the company. I mean, particularly in today's society where everybody I saw comment whiz by something about sensitive and snowflakes and whatnot. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of squishy people out there, and they get their feelings hurt, and all it takes is for them to start complaining and whining. Whereas what I'll say is, well, man up, for God's sakes. Nobody can fire me. The only person that can actually fire me is consumers. If I do something that is so just inexcusable, right? They could end up deciding, well, I ain't buying that dickhead cigars ever again, right? Because that guy, can you believe what he said? Can you believe what he thinks? But other than that, it's not like I have that one boss that can just instantly, snuff me out and send me packing with my papers. So that makes things a little easier. The other thing that's easier is, look, it's nice to say you don't give a whatever. Everybody does to a degree, right? It's just we're human. And but I have a little bit more latitude than most people. And I've been doing this an awful, awful long time, particularly with communicating in online medium. Now, look, obviously the video thing, it's not a friend to me. I'm not exactly the video god, you know what I mean? But I mean, the general concept and the interaction of communicating online, something I've been doing since the 90s. So I've got a pretty good sense and feel and vibe as to how people tend to react to public statements in both a negative way and in a positive way. So, having, 30 odd years of digital combat experience, it makes it a lot easier, right? Compared to, because, most people, I mean, think about it. They do how many podcasts a year? Have they even done 50 in their entire lives? How many interviews have they done? Written or taped or, on a podcast? I mean, most people don't really get a lot of experience with it, right? So, and look, the more you do, the better you get. The only problem is the more you do is trying to not end up sounding like a broken record all the time. That's really the biggest challenge, is to just not be that. But honestly, it's really kind of up to you. You as the interviewer are going to get the answers that you deserve. So the better you are at your job, that you set it up for me to say something interesting or unique, ends up benefiting your show. But I mean, if you ask me, what's your origin story? When did you smoke your first cigar? Blah, 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 blah. Then yeah, people are going to hear the same shit that I have literally said 1,000 times.
Absolutely. And the big difference too, though, is live, like we're doing now, versus taped also is a different dynamic. If you're not used to it, taped actually might make you feel more comfortable because things can be edited. I made a slip up. Live is much more on your feet. The flubs are there.
So what I have, look, I am obviously not from the millennial or the Gen Z crowd, right? I'm part of the Gen X, right? I was born in 65. So I'm right on the bubble. Like I'm like the 1 year after the boomers, the very first of the Gen X guys. I always grew up with there being some sort of digital, right? And the other thing that wasn't even the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is what I've noticed about these younger consumers is they actually don't like everything to be polished. They actually crave authenticity, right? Because they've been so heavily marketed to their entire lives that they're just sick of it. They see through it. So oddly enough, if they feel as though something is, because look, every company today, they're all striving and all of their marketing is to come off as authentic. That's everything they do is to fake how they're authentic, because that's what current consumers respond to. But what I'm telling you is that these younger kids, I'm going to call them kids because of my age, okay, their bullshit meters are pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
For as much as we bag on them as being lazy and soft and all of this and that, I find them to actually be somewhat discerning. Now, they get sucked into some rabbit holes that I can't quite grasp why they're sucked down them. But when it comes to the whole concept of brands and companies and products and whatnot, they're far less follow the pack, be a sheep on that kind of issue as a consumer than their previous generation was. I mean, so oddly enough, me being rough around the edges actually seems to translate well. It's like, I think it's one of the reasons why so many young people admired Bernie Sanders, right? It's why they glommed on to this, basically out of the crypt guy, I mean, there's certainly nothing about Bernie Sanders that's even close to their age or their generation. But you like Bernie Sanders, you hate Bernie Sanders politics, I don't care which side you're on. I think we can all pretty much agree Bernie Sanders is genuine. He believes what he's saying, and he says it with conviction. And because he says it with conviction and it comes off as real and true to who he is, I think it's one of the reasons why so many young people felt compelled to follow him and support him, because you get so little of that. You get, you look at the polished turd of politicians that we nowadays get, and it just all seems so fake and so just seems so packaged. So being less packaged works to your advantage, I think.
Yeah, I will agree with you about Bernie Sanders. As much as I don't agree with a lot, if not most, I will say the guy believes 100% what he says.
Yeah.
And when you get somebody that believes 100% what they say, that confidence level is overwhelming, that attractiveness level is overwhelming. And yes, I would 100% agree with you on that. That's kind of what people are looking for these days, because you said it. We live in a TikTok 30-second generation, and how could you have any sort of realism in that time span? So, but yeah, I think that's right. It just rough around the edges works today. Look at Elon. What did he tell he told Bob Iger at Disney to go, fuck off.
Oh, Elon, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I think that's one of the reasons. Look, and that's one of the reasons why Elon is so polarizing, right? But at the same time, it's hard not to admire somebody that's just confident in their own skin. I think that there's a lot. I think there's a lot of value in that. So I'm going to play interview here. What are you smoking tonight? I can't.
Yes, I was just about to flip into our sponsored segment of the night.
Oh, is this a segment I sponsor? I didn't even know.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. We just kick you on. So I am smoking the Paladin Day SOC.
Oh, I see it already split. Look at that. You should get a refund. It's crap.
Paladin Day SOC.
You have a spare cigar there, so you don't have to fight your way through all that nonsense?
Oh, I'm not fighting my way through anything, man. Seriously. Right. Totally fine.
My cigar didn't split, and I'm smoking a Micallef Black.
I actually didn't notice
it. Cigar, obviously.
I had no idea that it split until I just showed it to you.
Or else just show the whole world my shitty cigar.
Just turn it around. So tell us a little bit about the Micallef Black. I love that. It's definitely a little bit more potent, I would say, than the other Micallefs. Would you agree with me?
No, I think it's kind of different. So I think, there's three variations of Micallef. There's the original, which is blue, and then there's the Tricky Chocolate, which has a red band, and then there's the black. And the blue and the red are similar, except for one tobacco. The red one has an extra Dominican Ligero in it. So the red one tends to be more spicy, more peppery. I think the red one is actually strength-wise the stronger of the three. I think the black one is the richer of the three from a density kind of heaviness body kind of way because of the addition of that new Honduran regrowth seed that we did. So I think it has a bit more complexity. I think it has a bit more body. And I think strength-wise, it's under the red personally. I find the red to be the strongest. And then the mildest is the blue. When I say mildest, it's still a medium full plus kind of cigar. But I think in the blue one, you are able to get more of that kind of the cocoa and the chocolate notes and that earthy sweetness. It becomes very prevalent. It's probably of the three, I think the blue one is the creamiest. And I think it's the one that's probably the most relaxing to smoke. I don't even know if that even makes any sense. So really, when it comes to blue, black, and red, it's really just a question of what you personally like in a cigar. You're not going to smoke one of those three and hate it and love another one. What you're going to do is you're either going to like them all and have one that's your favorite, or you're not going to like any of them, because they're definitely in that. They're all Connecticut broadleaf blends. They're all based on the Micallef Liga. It's just a variation of that Liga to give you slightly different expressions of a Connecticut broadleaf smoke.
Well, I like all three. I like the black the best. I bought a box of them. And
thank you for your money. Much appreciated.
you're very, hey, we actually your rep in at TGS last year took care of my wife out of this world.
But he did it with ulterior motives. That dude is not a good guy.
Well, dude, he went down to Abe's warehouse and grabbed a Brulee Blue, and it just so happened to be the last box, and brought it for my wife. And
I was just thinking about firing him today, and now I can't. Good God, man! Petey Hernandez, Ryan Miller saved your ass. Unreal.
Well, that is without a doubt my wife's favorite Connecticut cigar. Is that Brulee Blue? It's like a thought process every single time she goes to smoke it. It's like, do I smoke it or do I smoke so? Like, is now like the right time to smoke this? Like, or so?
Time. I mean, the only question is, Brulee Blues are one of my best cigars in my opinion. The question is it the right time to smoke a $16 cigar? Right, that's really the question. Do you have the time to appreciate it? Can your wallet afford the hit? You know what I mean? But I mean, it's hard to go wrong with a Brulee Blue. But oddly enough, I mean, everyone assumes that Brulee Blues are the number one seller in Brulee, and they are not. We sell way more Toros and Robustos in the core Brulee. I think the perception of Brulee Blue being like, first off, it's doing wonderfully well, and it's fantastically successful. But part of it has to do with the consumer. The consumers that tend to smoke Brulee Blue are typically people that don't tend to normally smoke a lot of other Connecticut cigars.
That's true.
Because it's not like super strong. It's not like it's not your father's Connecticut, right? But it is amped up a little. Brulee Blue is kind of more designed for a guy like me that would rarely ever smoke a Connecticut shade cigar. But every once in a while, I want one. I want it with my coffee in the morning. I want this. Or I want something that's a little milder to, settle out my long day of smoking. The Brulee Blue is really much more of I guess the polite way is to say it, enthusiast cigar, an aficionado cigar, a geek cigar. Mm-hmm. But I think that if you just took like 10 regular Connecticut shade smokers that love Connecticut shade in the store, and they don't follow groups or social media, and they just like smoking Connecticut because they like mild, creamy, blonde cigars, I'm pretty sure that probably 7 out of 10 of those people would not choose the blue. They would probably choose the Toro or the Robusto after smoking all three. Because look at our sales numbers show it. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I'm very curious about how Wagashi will do, because Wagashi is the opposite end of the spectrum. Wagashi is taking the Brulee blend and saying, okay, how can I make it even a touch milder, but yet make it creamier, make it even smoother? You know what I mean? And I think that, so it's kind of one of those things where I think for the people that really love brulee, that like it better than the blue, I think they may look at Wagashi as, okay, this is the special brulee. Okay. Not this brulee blue nonsense, because they're really meant for two different, types of consumers. They're different expressions. Again, like the three variations of Mi Querida, yes, they're all brulee. They're all based around the same core liga, but each of those three give you a slightly different expression and a slightly different experience. Now, guys like myself, or maybe you, Ryan, you might find a place in your smoking where there's a moment where Wagashi is perfect and there's another moment where the blue is perfect. And there'll be moments where neither is perfect, right? But most cigar consumers don't play the field like that. They smoke a certain size in a certain wrapper color with a certain strength level, and they're pretty locked in. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what the long-term take is on a brand like Wagashi, or a blend like Wagashi. I'm curious. We'll find out.
Yeah, and I might, to answer Vince's question here. Yes, Vince, Ari has had the Wagashi and she loved it. But to your point, Steve, when your Connecticut's are a little, they offer a little something flavor wise, or maybe it's just the quality of, they're not normal style Connecticut's.
No, they're richer. They have more depth to them. They have some body.
Meatier.
I think one of the, for me, and I don't know if it's because of my palate changing over the years or the cigars changing. Maybe it's a bit of both. I used to smoke a lot of Connecticut's in the 80s, in the early 90s, and then I kind of drifted away from them. And now when I smoke some of these Connecticut's that I used to love, whether it be, an Ashton Classic or a standard Davidoff White Label, or, just an Arturo Fuente Connecticut, I find them thin and I find them wispy. Okay. And that's not the way I remember them being. I remember them having, even though they were mild, there was a level of richness to them. There was a level of body to the smoke. I mean, it had a texture in your mouth. So when I did the brulee, that was what I was trying to capture, was the way I remember these cigars tasting back in that day. Because it seems like when I pick up most Connecticut's now, they almost, to me, they're almost always anemic.
Yeah.
Just a little grassy, little hay-like. Smoke feels thin. It doesn't have a lot of depth. It doesn't have a lot of richness. Or, some of the newer style Connecticut's, the not your father's Connecticut's, some of those I just find to be really strong. So they've just basically made a strong cigar and then put a blonde wrapper on it. But that doesn't make any sense to me either, because, I would rather smoke a cigar with a sun-grown Habano wrapper or a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper or something like that. Why do I want to have a strong cigar with a blonde wrapper on it? The wrapper almost doesn't serve a purpose, because you're not getting that, that nuttiness, that sense of almost like an almond kind of sensation. You know what I mean? When you pair that wrapper with a really strong blend, well, the parts that make Connecticut shade appealing, they just get lost. They get washed over by the strength of the blend. So I don't get that style. Now, look, there's plenty of those cigars out there that consumers love and they buy, and God bless them, keep buying them. But that's definitely not brulee. Brulee is not that cigar. Even the blue, which I think is meant for someone that smokes on the heavier side and occasionally wants to go over to the, rather than the dark side, go to the light side occasionally. Brulee is not going to compare to those not your fathers. What I'm trying with brulee, I'm trying to make your fathers the way it used to actually taste, and why they were so popular before we ended up with what we ended up with.
So you brought up something interesting, and as Steve is the father of Cigar Media, in the sense of you're the original reviewer of cigars back when DOS was a thing and internet was just starting.
Yeah, the dial-up where you plug the phone into the
56K
rubber
modem.
cup. I can't even make the sound. You're in your sound. Yeah, 300 bits per second, baby. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we now have 100. We now have 100 megabytes. Right? We used to get 300 bits, not 3,000, not 30,000. No, we got 300.
Right now, my download.
Remember, we used to download porn, and you get a picture, and you like start downloading it. And you could literally walk away for 30 minutes. And it would slowly like fill in
line by line.
30 minutes to then get a really grainy, ugly picture. Like, I think that's a boob, but I'm not sure that's a boob. Maybe that's her. You know what I mean? It was like terrible.
Like you're watching scrambled porn on pay-per-view.
Crazy.
So it's obviously your catalog, your encyclopedic knowledge of brands and styles. Where do you think, or why do you think those great Connecticut's that you were referring to changed so drastically to where, like, you take it for instance, the Camacho Triple Maduro is absolutely not the same Camacho Triple Maduro of days ago.
I don't want to speak about a specific brand because it's really awkward. I'm in the same industry as them.
That was me saying that as an example.
I know that, but I mean, I think there's some general reasons why Connecticut shade has gotten to be the way it's gotten to be. I think part of it is that I don't think that most manufacturers of Connecticut shade cigars today age the tobacco, particularly the wrapper, long enough. It's such a quick tobacco to turn around coming out of the field. It's quick to ferment because it's mulled. It doesn't actually require any bale aging. You can use it right away. So I think they turnkey it too quickly now, number one. Number two, I think that a lot of the softer filler materials that used to be kind of the norm have become less the norm, because everything has been amped up so much in octane that I think you find a lot of those tobaccos that there used to be a wide variety of a lot more mild tobaccos, filler materials in the marketplace. There's less of them. I mean, yeah, they're still mild tobaccos, but they're mild tobaccos in comparison to what we're growing as a generality on the whole. I think in the case of like a lot of Dominicans, which were the benchmark for most Connecticut shades, a lot of them starting about 15, 18 years ago, they really started to shift out of Palado Cubano, and they really started shifting into using more Olor. And I'm just not a big fan of Olor. Like, in those like early 90s, there was no Olor in a Davidoff at all. And now, so many of their blends are really heavy with a lot of heavy quantities of Olor. Olor to me is just not as palatable a tobacco, but it's way more economical, way better yields. You know what I mean? And the Palado Cubano is much more difficult to source, and it's a much smaller leaf, so it isn't as economical to use. So I think it's just a combination of a wide variety of things. And the other thing too is I think that, we're into another generation of cigar makers. And I think that, look, all the buzz and all the love from a public media sentiment, look, 50% of the cigars sold in America are still Connecticut shade, and they're mild cigars. But you guys look online, you see what everybody talks about and takes photos of, right? It's almost always the darker, heavier, stronger stuff. So there's not as much incentive for you as a manufacturer to make a really good Connecticut shade cigar, right? And there's particularly almost no incentive for you as a small brand because you got to compete with, the big boys own the game. Altadis with Romeo and Monte Cristo, and you got Davidoff, and you got, those guys over at STG with Macanudo, all, the Ashton people. They own the field of battle, right? So it's really, really hard for a small manufacturer to say, you know what? I'm going to go climb the Connecticut shade hill that I'm going to get absolutely no love for and absolutely no social media presence for, and try to get that customer that smokes Monte Cristo and Romeo and Julieta and Ashton. That's like a bridge too far. So I think it's a wide combination of things. And look, I'm sure there's some Connecticut's out there that are just as good and maybe better. But I don't know what they are personally when I smoke them. I think I'm really, it's kind of weird because I'm known for making strong cigars and broadleaf cigars, and that's kind of supposed to be my wheelhouse. But I'm really proud of the work I've done on these milder blends. I mean, I think I've hit some really good ones. I think in Western Osaka, I think Exclusivo is a really nice mild cigar. I like everything that I've done in Brulee. I think it's worthy of being in the conversation. I think it's and again, it kind of reminds me of what I used to smoke. So, and look, you can't reinvent the wheel. We're rolling up weeds into tubes here, right? It's all brown and round, right? I'm not going to create some miraculous taste that has never been ever created before. Okay, you just wash that out of your head. It's not possible. But the question is, so a lot of the cigars that I make are based on some of my memories of cigars I really, really enjoyed, and me just trying to recapture that experience. So, and I've smoked probably, I don't even know anymore. I stopped counting after like 100,000, but I'm probably getting close to 115,000 cigars, maybe more. That I've smoked. So I've smoked a lot of cigars. So
Yeah.
I really know what I like, and I really know what I don't like. So I'm pretty dialed in on what my taste buds are as far as what I consider to be good and what I consider to be okay and decent and what I consider to be subpar. And I just try to make things that I think are great to me. And then I just hope that consumers, when they smoke it, they go, oh, wow, yeah, I really like that too. It's the best you can hope for.
No, and I agree with you. I think you've done absolutely amazing in the Connecticut world, in the mild world. Some of my favorite Connecticut's are yours. Mark, before we kind of get into some of the giveaway information here, no, we haven't forgotten. We've just been letting people tune in. Marshall Henry, and we have a few audience questions.
Sure.
Marshall asks, I want to know how, Steve, you control the construction quality so well, considering that your cigars are made in a factory where other cigars are also made, but maybe not as well.
A couple of things. I mean, one thing is, with the exception of the limited drops, right? Everything is made on a continual basis. So I basically have pairs that every single day are rolling the exact same blend in the exact same sizes. So by providing them that consistent level of work, it ends up making the product to be much more consistent. The other thing too is because they're dedicated pairs, they end up having to follow what I want them to do versus what might be the standard practices in the factory. Now, that comes at a price. My cigars cost more to make, and in the end, you as consumers pay more for those cigars, right? Not crazy, like absurd more, but yeah, you pay. I mean, you can make a Connecticut broadleaf cigar that would be retail for a couple bucks cheaper, but you can't make one of the same consistency and quality for a couple bucks cheaper. So part of it is the fact that I pay more, and as a result, I charge more. And you as a consumer, you get to decide whether the value is in it. The other thing is I visit the factories on a very regular kind of basis. I mean, I try my most to get there a minimum of 10 times a year. And that's an awful lot. Most brand owners in the United States, they sometimes they don't even go in a whole year's time, and by showing up makes a real difference. And the other thing too is because I know how to make cigars and I know what to expect, it makes it where I can be very hands-on critical in a way that most brand owners cannot, right? So, I mean, it's one of those things that, if you're a mechanic and you have other mechanic and you're watching him work and you know what the fuck he's supposed to be doing and you see he's not doing it exactly right, you can jump in and kind of get on that guy and say, wait a minute, what are you doing here, Bob? Give me that wrench. Let me show you what to do here. And look, them knowing that makes a big difference, right? And the other thing too is just always be demanding, always expect the best, and just don't take that it is what it is kind of attitude. I mean, you gotta be a bit of a dick, and I'm really good at that. I've always been good at it, and I mean, you gotta be demanding and have expectations, and when they don't meet the expectations, there's got to be repercussions and punishment, And look, these factories, they learn really quick. I mean, there have been times that there was one trip I rejected over 60,000 cigars. Okay. Because I was not happy. 60,000 cigars. That's a lot of money. That factory had to eat that. All right. Because it was even worse because I lost the money on the materials because they basically wasted my good tobacco and they turned it into this shit because they weren't paying attention in the 30 days that I wasn't there. And then there's 60,000 cigars that are like unsatisfactory. And no, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not paying you for that. If anything, you owe me money because you just wasted 60,000 cigars worth of tobacco, right? And I mean, and so I think once the factory understands it, and they know that and that you are going to require this, it ends up making the overall product quality much, much higher than if you just leave them to their own devices. So, there's a myriad of things, but also I don't ask the impossible either. I'm really good at sourcing materials that work. I understand the mechanics of making a cigar. It isn't just a question of throwing stuff together that smells good or tastes good, but how does this material bunch? How's this going to be in the Rolera's hands? How is he going to end up doing the bunching with this particular piece of tobacco? I mean, having the right ingredients that are workable, okay, that set him up or her up for success makes a really big difference. I'm going to use the example of the Triple Maduro. I don't know what they taste like now because I haven't smoked one in many, many years. But when they first launched that brand, it didn't burn. It just didn't. The combination of the wrapper and the binder and the filler, it was all too similar. And basically, you had nothing to help the burn in the cigar. You didn't have any faster materials that would burn quicker to help the slower materials along. You didn't have any slower materials that would help the faster materials slow down. It was a really, really messy constructed cigar. So it tasted great, but you had to light the damn thing like 20 times in order to smoke it. Okay. Now, I'm sure it isn't that way now because it's still in the market and people love the brand. But anyone that remembers when it first came out, that brand in that first year or so, maybe 2 years, it was kind of rough, right? And that was just really, they kind of set the workers up for failure because the materials that were selected, although they tasted really great and they smelled really great, they just didn't play well with one another when it came to the mechanics of the cigar. Because if a cigar doesn't draw correctly or it doesn't burn correctly, then who cares about what the flavor is, right? I mean, it's got to basically meet the threshold of, is it smokable, right? Before you even get into, does it taste great? And I think that gets lost. And it particularly gets lost with a lot of people that, don't really have any understanding of what's being made, no comprehension of how these tobaccos work or how they're fermented or what they can do to push them along to get them to where they need to be. And listen, and the other thing too is when you think of like a lot of small brands, these cigar productions are so insignificant to these factories. I mean, they just don't matter. If you're a cigar factory, like when I was at Drew Estate and you're doing literally, you're doing crazy numbers. You're making 2 million cigars a month. So it means you got 20 days. It means every day you're making 100,000 cigars. How much care and attention do you really think the product is going to be for the guy that's making 500 boxes of his newest, hottest, greatest, whatever? You know what I mean? It's 5,000 cigars on a day that you're making 100,000 cigars. It literally does not even equal an hour of labor for the factory, right? It literally is like 30 minutes.
I never actually thought about it like that.
So, I mean, I know that as that brand owner, it's your job to go and dog and pony that shit out there. But you also got to think about it from the factory's perspective. How much care and attention is your product really going to get when it's 30 minutes of work in the grand scheme of things? So it's also a question of choosing the right partners, one that you have a simpatico relationship with, somebody that you can actually get them on the stick to do what you want them to do. And another thing that makes a big difference is, I'm sourcing so many of the materials so even though that same factory may be making a lot of other cigars, they're not making them out of the same tobaccos, because I'm having them use different tobaccos than what they normally use. So it's not coming from their normal pool, because if it's coming from their normal pool, guess what? They're going to take the very best materials they're going to use them in their top of the line brands, right? Then I go, oh, well, let's help Saka out and give them our really very best from such and such crop. Why would they do that? They're not going to do that, right? They're going to put it in their very, very best product. So there's a lot of reasons why. But most of it just comes down to just knowledge and attention to detail and being an asshole.
Well, great question here, because I was thinking the same thing. What happens to the 60K cigars?
Well,
do you even know?
No, so I don't actually. I do know in that case, because in that case I wanted money out of the tobacco, so I ended up having them shred them, so that I could then take the tobacco and then sell it as picadura back factory. And I made them overpay for the picadura. So it was a way for me to slightly cash recover. And then they ended up going into all sorts of mixed fill cigars that they made. So in that case, I know what happens to tobacco. But look, when things are getting rejected on a day-to-day basis, because we don't sell any segundos, right? I just don't believe in it. I'm not in the segundo market. It's just not my shtick. And then my goal is to try to have every cigar be made perfect, and to not lose that much of production, because again, I'm supplying the materials. But in some cases, a factory would take those cigars and they would just resell them and put them as a no name, or they'd put somebody else's band on them and slap them in a bundle. I mean, look, you guys see these shit brands all the time on all these different, websites and whatnot. So there's a lot of subpar cigars that get sold.
No, there is, and that's it. That's interesting. That I think that's actually that's also kind of a way, in my opinion, to protect your own brand, is having them shredded.
It was my tobacco that they ruined.
Exactly. And obviously, then you at least got something out of it.
Yeah, but it was more so. Look, I still lost in the end. I actually lost more money on the deal than they lost on the deal, to be honest with you. But it gets paid back in different ways. Okay, you want to give me a price increase, but remember that money you cost me on that? So I'm going to give you your price increase, but I'm not going to give it to you for an extra 60 days because you really owe me, bub, because you screwed up all. You know what I mean? Look, it's not the way I'm talking makes it sound like it's a combative relationship. It is and it isn't. I mean, you have to look, business is only good when it works for everybody, right? It has to work between me and the farmer. It has to work between the farmer and the factory. It has to work between the factory and me. It has to work between me and my retailers. I mean, it has to work between me and the consumers that buy my cigars, that they feel like they get a good value. So as much as the way I'm blustering and talking may sound, all I do is raise hell and scream like a madman, I'm actually quite fair. Right. And I mean, and when you do business fairly and justly, and they make a mistake, they also feel guilty about it. Right. And they want to make it better too, because you have a relationship like that. So even because things are always going to go wrong, it's just the only thing consistent in handmade cigars is that they're inconsistent. Right. So there's always going to be problems that constantly need to be solved. So the question is, how do you go about solving those problems? And you try to find something where everybody comes out as good as they can possibly come out. But at the same time, you can't be the whipping boy, okay, and just eat it, because that doesn't work either. Because if you eat this, well, then you set up a habit where you eat this, then you eat that. And the next thing you know, all you're doing is eating. and eating stuff, and it's not good. And so I think there needs to be a balance to good business. There really does. And it doesn't require you to be a pushover. It doesn't require you to really be as abrupt as I sound. But the thing is, they know how I am. Like, there's certain factories that make really great cigars that I never could work with. I just simply couldn't. I would just clash way too much with the factory owner or the general manager. It would just never work. And it's not that they're not great factories and don't know how to make good cigars, but they really don't want somebody like me sticking my fingers in as many places as I stick them into, right? So,
whoa, this is a family show somewhat.
So I see you have to. So it's also a question of, picking the right partners, to do business with.
No, and that's absolutely true. But like you said, standing up for yourself really is a tactic in business that a lot of business people don't fully understand until they get trampled on. And then it's always kind of like, that's the last time this is going to happen to me. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to take that approach of, yeah, there's some win and some loss. Yeah, we'll go back and forth, but I'm not going to eat crow every single day. I'm not going to eat crow all the time. I'm not going to be the only one. Right. That's when you get trampled on. And that's when all of a sudden, oh, we didn't get to your cigar. I think for a
lot of brand owners, they don't know 2 ways from Sunday what's even going on to even know they're being trampled on. They don't even know what the fair price is for the product that they're making. Because look, you can make handmade cigars at the factory level for as little as $1.20, $1.30. You can make cigars at the factory level that cost $4.80. Okay, you can make cigars like the Unicorn that cost significantly more than that. So there's such a wide range of what it costs to make a cigar, which in the end is still the dried up weeds rolled in a tube. So it all looks similar, but it isn't similar. And if you don't know what things should actually cost and how these mechanisms, this actions, the process of preparing those materials and working those materials and manufacturing those cigars actually is, you can't really even have an honest discussion where you know what's going on. And the other thing that you have to understand, and this is going to sound incredibly racist, but it's the truth. There's a little bit of like shadiness in everything in Latin culture, business-wise. There's a little bit of a, hey, let me get over on this. You know what I mean? It's almost a sport, and it's actually expected to be part of the game, right? It isn't. They expect you to defend your position just the way they defend their position. Everything is a bit of a negotiation. And if you're not used to operating that way, because we as Americans aren't, right? We just don't do it. But they grew up with it. It's part of the culture of the way they operate in everything they do. When they go to buy their groceries, they haggle about the price of the mangoes. They haggle about how much this 50-pound bag of rice is, right? Every single time. Okay, unless they're shopping in a Maxi Pali, but the vast majority of them, that are still buying food off the street, this is part of the daily give and take. That the mango woman wants what for a mango? Are you kidding me? That many Cordobas? Are you crazy? Feel this mango. Look at this spot. Boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? It's part of the way it works. So if you're not comfortable having that kind of combative kind of relationship, with the intent that in the end, you're going to end up at the point that's fair, that both parties go, okay, that was a fair price for this mango, right? It puts you at a serious disadvantage if you don't understand how to operate in that environment. And we as Americans, we're not used to it.
Yeah, we've lost that. That used to be the way, but it's definitely not the way anymore.
It hasn't been that way for a century in the United States.
Correct. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I don't think there's anything to say. And I also think it's easy to say that there's maybe a little shadiness because they're outsiders and they may be, like you said, it's kind of like, hey, I got an Asian tattoo. It's a word. It says love. And then and then the Japanese guy goes, actually, no, it says dick.
And I can tell
it's
you,
kind of that.
another fault with a lot of like Westerners or Europeans, first worlders. Let's just call us first worlders, right? A lot of people kind of take this position of, well, these people should be thankful that I'm here because look at all the people I'm employing and all the money I bring them. That's just a bullshit attitude. It's just disrespectful. And look, I don't care who you are.
No, I agree.
Nobody likes to be disrespected like that,
No, I
right?
agree.
And as soon as you start trying to pull that card, they instantly try to find extra ways to screw you, right? And with good cause. So it's one of these things too that you always have to be respectful of everybody, even while you're negotiating hard, even while you're being extra critical, right? So there's a certain give and take and balance, and it's one thing to say it, but I'm not even expressing it correctly or fully. It's something that just the more you do it and the more you interact with so many different people in different factories and different farms, different everybody, whether it be the owner of the factory or whether it be the bonchero that just started, 6 weeks ago, you just get a better feel for it and you get better at it over time, I think. And look, I've had the benefit of doing it for a long time, and I'd like to think that I'm good at my job. I mean, it is my job.
We all think you're really good at your job too. So we're gonna do some giveaways right now, and while I'm gonna tell everybody exactly what to put in the comments to be entered in, remember we've got 2 pink, 2 gray beanies. We've got I almost don't want to give this away. Yeah. We have a signed. Oh, let me change cameras here. We have a signed.
What number is that, out of curiosity?
367.
All right.
Unopened. I can't even tell you how hard it was to not open them. Unopened. Still actually has the tag number on the wrapper itself. All right. Signed. Coveted crystal ashtray. I've got 1 to give away. We have 2 of the DTT coffee mugs. My wife accidentally broke the one I took for myself, giving the other 2 away.
I'll send you a new one.
Oh, I appreciate that. She didn't break it, broke in the dishwasher. Hand wash these guys. It's so
I put them in the dishwasher all the time, but it's a mug, it happens.
And then I have 3. Thank you, by the way, Steve, for offering to replace that. 3 Saka statues as well. Everybody knows what those are. So here's what you got to do. It's so easy. You just got to say thanks, Steve, in the comments below right now. Going to ask Steve a question, and while everybody is putting thanks Steve in the comments, I see none of them flowing in right now. Apparently nobody wants to win anything. There we go. Steve, I have a question here from your boy Chris.
I have a question. Hold on. How are you even seeing the comments? I don't see any comments.
If you go on your screen, you should be able to expand the comments somehow on your screen.
I'll play with it. I'll figure it out. But there is a way to do it here in the StreamYard.
I'm pretty sure there is for you guys to see it too.
And do I just see the Facebook comments or do I see the YouTube comments too?
You should see both.
Oh, okay.
I see both. But Chris asks a question here. Which company do you have the longest working relationship with?
It's actually with Noxa. I started working with Noxa back as early as 1999, 2000, because I used to work at JR Cigar, and Noxa was the primary manufacturer of many of the inexpensive bundle products that we sold at JR Cigar. So I had more experience, more actual hands-on working experience with them first. I didn't really, obviously I was aware of White in Nicaragua and I was friendly with them, But I didn't actually start actively working with Hoya until, I don't even remember exactly when Drew Estate took over the distribution. I guess it would have been 2008-ish, maybe. So it would have been 2008. So I had already been working with Noxa in some capacity for about 8 years before I started working with Hoya. Now, once I left JR, I did very little with Noxa. And once Drew Estate took on the distribution for Hoya Nicaragua, I did a ton with the Hoya guys. So I was way more familiar with Hoya when I left Drew Estate. I left in 2013. So I had 5 good years, and I was the primary contact between Hoya and Drew Estate during my tenure. It was part of my job as president. So I spent a lot more time working very closely with them for 5 years. But Knox is actually the first one.
Okay. And do you ever disclose what is made where?
Yeah, we disclose everything. It's stamped on every box. If you flip the box over, it'll tell you which ones are made at Hoya and which ones are made at Knox. And it's pretty simple. All the Micallefs are made at Noxa. Umbagogs are made at Noxa. The Unstolen Valor is made at Noxa. All Sobremesa, Sin Compromisos, Stillwell Stars are made at Hoya de Nicaragua. Most of the Muestras, other than the Unstolen Valor, those have all been made at Hoya de Nicaragua. And then when it comes to the exclusives, it varies. Red Meat Lovers, which isn't an exclusive anymore, that's made at Noxa. Whereas like Don Derma, that's made at Hoya de Nicaragua. I try to split the exclusive projects up between the two factories so they both get an equal part misery on those projects. Because, look, again, going back to this is a half hour's worth of work in the grand scheme of things. Factories don't really want to do those small batch production things. So it's one of these things that, because particularly since the way I do them, where I'm so picky about them, it's a lot of work to make 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 special cigars that are, out of the norm. So I tried to split that misery between both factories, and they do it as a part and parcel of, well, gosh, he made 1 million cigars here at Hoya. All right, we'll endure Saka's 30,000 specialty whatevers, you know what I mean? So, and it's the same thing at Noxa. They do it and they pretend to smile about it. And that's just kind of the way it is.
Well, that's it. I didn't realize that you were at Noxa first. I thought you were at Hoya first.
Well, when I started DTT, my first brands were out of Hoya first. So Sobremesa was out of Hoya in Nicaragua.
But your relationship.
Micallef, which was the second brand, the regular blue one, that was at Noxa. So I kind of bounced between the factories. So, 2 years ago, big brand release was Stillwell Star. That was made at Hoya. Well, this year's big brand release was Red Meat Lovers, and that one was made at Noxa. So I can already tell you the next big brand release that I'll do, which won't be in 2024, it'll be in 2025. That one will be done at Hoya de Nicaragua. Again, I try to give both of my partners as equal a love as I possibly can. Now, in the end, the cigars have to speak for themselves and sell. I can't say I'm going to sell more Sobremesa than I'm going to sell a Micallef. Consumers are ultimately going to determine which one's going to be the one and which factory is going to get more work than the other factory. But oddly enough for us, it's pretty balanced. We don't really have both factories gig me for a few $100,000 every single month. So we're both pretty happy. So again, try to not play favorites.
Well, it is time. We are going to see how many entries we got. Now, I'm using this StreamYard giveaway tool. So as long as everybody put in correctly, which I saw a ton of, thanks, Steve, we should be good to go. So let me see how many entries that we have. Oh my gosh. I don't understand why they even have this thing. This thing just doesn't compile the names. It's supposed to literally crawl through all of the comments and gather them.
Right.
And it says 12, 16 entries. I know I had way more than that. So we're going to do this a little bit differently since the tool doesn't want to work tonight. I'm just going to hand put each one into the wheel of names. So we're going to...
That's going to take forever.
No, not long. Some people answered twice. It's not a big deal. So
I think part of the problem is, some people said thanks Saka, some people put punctuation in there. Why don't you make it simpler and just tell everyone to put the capital letter A and see what happens then? So if you just have one letter, capital letter A, I bet you'll get a better result.
All right, let's try this because it's asking me for a hashtag and the thing. Everyone hashtag the capital letter A. We're going to try that. Hashtag A. If you don't put a hashtag in front of the A, it's not going to pick you up. Hashtag A. There you go. Hashtag A. And let's see if that works through. Steve put himself in. Clearly, he's going to win all of his own prizes back.
The only way I can break even, baby. I just met with the accountant on Tuesday to do the year-end planning. So, but I already see, like, Roger, you put a capital lowercase a. So did Dan.
Hashtag A. That's capital now I have 33 entries. This is reading it now. I think it was the hashtag it was looking for. Hashtag capital A. I have 33 entries right now. Give it a few more seconds here. Vince asked a question a few times, Steve, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring that question up. He was asking how you keep your au pairs together. Let me find the actual question. Here it is. The tobacco and blend matter, but your consistency is because people in pairs do the same thing over and over. So how do you keep your pairs together versus losing them?
Tobacco and the blend matters, but your consistency is because the people in pairs that don't do the same over and over. So how do you keep your pairs together versus losing them to other brands or other teams? Look, if you keep them occupied with work, there's no reason why the factory has any reason to move them. And the fact that I end up paying more for the quality of the pair that I want, the pairs that work on our products, they want to stay working on our products because they get paid more than other pairs do in the factory. So there's an incentive for the pairs to stay working on our product. And there's incentive for the factory to keep them working on the product because when they make our cigars, I pay a better rate than most people are willing to pay. But I also expect them to make a better quality overall cigar. So it's kind of a quid pro quo in that way. So it's really just understanding the dynamics of economics. Workers like to earn more money. Factories like to earn more money. You know what I mean? Workers don't like, and the thing that consumers have to understand is in the average factory, most pairs, particularly the Boncheros, even more than the Roleras, they don't like constantly changing materials to work with, right? I know we blow the romance up about, the artisanship of making cigars. Most of these people, it's a job. They show up in the morning. They just want to do their job. They only get paid for cigars that pass quality control. So they want every cigar to pass quality control because that's how they maximize their paychecks. And their lives are easier if, hey, every day I come in and I roll a Mi Querida Ancho Largo. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. And the more Mi Querida Ancho Largos that they get to make, the better they get at it, the quicker they get at it, and the more consistent they get at it, which as a result ends up giving them more pay, and it ends up giving me a better quality cigar. But part of that also is one of the reasons why you'll see us go through periods of so everybody experiences back orders, right? But we don't experience back orders the same way that most companies do because we're always making these core products all the time, continually. And look, and when sales on something slow, I just keep having them make it until I go, okay, we're just so far over. we need to take a pair off from this particular production and we need to put them on something else. But a lot of times, even if I do that, I'll take somebody that's like rolling a 6x52 Toro in Mi Querida, and I'll say, okay, we're going to shift you to make 5x52 Robustos, where it's an easy transition, because they don't want to go from making 52 ring gauge cigars to making 48 ring cigars. Now, there's those few pairs in every factory that just loves to bounce around and do all sorts of different things. They really enjoy that. But literally, in most factories, you'd be lucky if there's 4 or 5 pairs that actually want to do that. They just want to come in the morning. They want to put their AirPods in. They want to sit there. They want to do their job. They want all the cigars possible to pass. So if you make it easy for them, you end up with a higher grade and better quality product. So, and for a lot of small brands, they don't have the ability to commit to making the number of cigars of what it takes to keep a pair constantly making the same product.
No, absolutely.
Whereas I do. And what'll end up happening is I'll just let the back orders build and build and build till I get to the point that, okay, I now need to add another pair. Because as soon as I add another pair, I'm pretty much committing to, depending on the product, I'm committing to somewhere between 1,500 to 1,700, 1,800 cigars a week, coming out of that pair. That's an extra, 7,000 or so cigars every single month. And so I mean, a lot of it just has to do with management of labor, No,
but it's very important that you pay Euro pairs right, because like you said, that's really what keeps them, right? Is the fact that you pay them well, they're able to support their family.
Yeah, but you can't pay them well if they don't do the work right? So that's the other thing.
True.
Just paying more doesn't get you a better result. It's paying more with an expectation of them doing better. And you got to hold them to the doing better standard in order to stay there. And the thing is, I mean, look, you're always having corrective actions, right? They're always going to be making mistakes. It's human nature, right? So it's a question of how do they take the correction? Do they actually correct the problem? And if they don't, we just move them out, because if you're working in one of those factories, you really want to be sitting on those tables. Now, not everybody does. There are pairs that don't want to make cigars to the quality that I expect. They find it too much work, even though they could make more money, or maybe they just aren't capable of doing it. So there's some pairs that they'll never make my cigars effective. They're perfectly good for making brand X or brand Y or brand Z, but it's the difference between, hey, you're making a cigar that retails for $7-8, right? $9 versus, hey, I'm going to make a Mi Querida Black that's a $16, $17 cigar, so not every pair wants to roll my products. And if they don't want to, look, when we offer to a pair to graduate into the teams that we use, that offer happens one time. And if they don't take advantage of the offer, they don't get offered ever again.
Really?
Yeah. I don't need that not can do kind of attitude. It was the same way we ran Liga Privada when I was at Drew Estate. I mean, if you got the call that, hey, we're going to make you into a Liga Privada pair, and if that pair said, no, I don't want that responsibility, I don't want that level of scrutiny, even though I'm going to get paid more for it, they never were ever asked again.
Wow. So that's a one and done promotion offer, never to come again.
No, because there's look, you're in a factory. There's hundreds of people that want those jobs.
Sure.
Right? So if somebody doesn't want that job, I'm not going to convince them to take it. Let them keep rolling whatever shit they're currently rolling. It's no ill will on me. I'll find somebody else.
Vince comes in with the Steve makes an offer they can't refuse. All right, so we're going to do some giveaways here right now. We're going to use this giveaway tool. Let's do this. First drawing up. Who do we have here? Here?
Saka.
This is for the hat. This is for the gray hat. I said it before it stopped. Derek Johnson.
Like he needs another hat. Derek probably has like 42 of those things.
Well, he's got 43 now. Derek Johnson. So let's see.
Let me say this about those hats. We're going to stop making them.
They are the most comfortable.
We're gonna keep the hats themselves, but we're gonna change the logo on them somehow.
Oh,
So
they are that dual layer.
Whatever I have remaining in my warehouse and whatever's out in the wild will be the end of the Saka Squatch beanies for a while at least. I won't say I'll never make them again, but I want to change it up to something else.
Well, I will tell you, as a bald guy, I could tell a fellow bald guy made this beanie because that interior of the hat is the most comfortable, soft, warm I have ever experienced.
It's not a fashion beanie. This is a
no.
These beanies really work.
You can tell you live where you live.
Yeah, you can tell I live in New Hampshire. Yeah, it's a legit working hat. You're not wearing that hat to wear it out to the club and look like you're wearing it.
No, you will sweat in that hat. It is very warm. So, Derek, reach out to me on Facebook Messenger and give me your address. Next drawing is for a pink hat.
I like the pink one best.
The pink one's really,
I wear the
nice.
pink one.
I do like the pink one. By the way, you do have to live in the United States to win. I'm just throwing that out there now. Will Den, you have a pink beanie coming your direction. And just so people understand what I am talking about, the layer on the inside of this thing is just as soft as can be. I mean, my gosh.
It's a fleece liner. I mean, it's not like rocket science. It's just a better quality beanie.
Much better quality beanie.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna save the other two, the other gray and the other pink hat to give away here. We're gonna do a mug giveaway right now. This is for one of the Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust mugs. And who do we have? We've got Vince.
He doesn't need a mug.
Vince.
He's got an army of mugs.
He certainly does. He's got to be one of your biggest fans.
He's gonna put that crap on eBay, man. He's gonna flip it.
You better not sell it, Vince, or else you are not allowed to ever win anything again. Better be a different mug.
Vince is saying pay it forward. He wants you to respin.
Okay. We'll respin for that. Vince, look at you. You're such a great guy.
Thank you, Vince. If that isn't what he means, I'll still send you a mug, Vince. I just screwed you out of your mug. If you didn't mean it that way, I apologize.
JJ Jambalaya. And yes, Steve can screw anybody out of any prize he wants, especially since he's willing to pay.
I know Vince gets his balls busted a lot, particularly like in the social group for Smoke In. But Vince is generally he's salt of the earth out there. He's a very generous, kind-hearted guy. He's always been generous with people.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Vince, actually, by the way. Thank you so much for getting tables for TGS again for all of us in the Smoke and Social group. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you for holding a spot for me. So next we're going to do a Saka Squatch giveaway. So what do we have here? Stephen Carl.
Congratulations, Stephen.
Congratulations. So JJ Jambalaya, please reach out to me in the DMs. Can you say that anymore, or is that weird to say? Reach out to me on Facebook Messenger and give me your name and address, as well as Stephen Carl. Please reach out to me as well on Facebook. Now, I need to get these out to you all, so please, in the next day, I know you all are watching right now. If you've already won, don't wait. Go over right now on Facebook. It's 2 seconds and send me your name and address so I can get this stuff out to you. If I don't hear from you, I can't send it to you. So we're going to save the other mug, the other 2 hats, and the other 2 Saka squatches, and of course that crystal ashtray for the end of the
You're just
show.
gonna milk this.
Oh yeah, are you kidding me?
I want to go to bed. Add your viewer numbers now.
So, Steve, I had the opportunity. Now, first off, and I've shared this with you, the Stillwell Star is an incredibly special cigar for me. A specific one. I love all of them, but the specific one that hit me the hardest as far as like bringing back literal flashbacks of memories to my granddad was the Stillwell Star 2022, the holiday 2022.
Awesome.
I absolutely love that cigar. I had the opportunity because Abe included the 2023 in the Hanukkah Advent calendar to try that one as well. And I loved it just the same. I had
which did you like better?
That 2022, because of those initial memories, those initial feelings, I'm going to have to say that one. There was a slight tweak in there in the 2022 to 2023. I felt maybe that was just
a different blend.
Yeah.
I mean, the pipe tobacco is different and the cigar blend is different. So they're definitely different expressions. It's kind of funny because we officially today at Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, 8 years as a company, we have never had an official company meeting. Today was the very first time in 8 years that we actually had a meeting, okay, to kind of go over what happened in this previous year and to talk about next year. I'm not a meeting guy. I'll waste hours in a podcast drinking, but I just don't like meetings. I just have flashbacks at Drew Estate. We had marathon meetings that would literally last days there. But we had our very first one ever since the company's inception. And that was actually one of the questions I posed to everybody. Do you prefer the holiday 2022 or the holiday 2023? And it was split like 50-50. So there's definitely people that prefer one over the other.
I will say
I personally like the 23 better than the 22. Anna likes the 23 better. Cindy likes the 23 better. Yvonne likes the 22 better. I know that Amber liked the 22 better. I can't remember what Dave said. I know that
I'm going to say I liked the body of the 2023 a little bit better. I thought it was a slightly more flavorful, but I loved the room note. Now, with the Stillwell Star, you have to talk about room note because that's where you're getting that.
So much of what pipe tobacco is about the room note.
Exactly. And it's that room note that brought me back to 8 years old, sitting with my granddad while he was smoking his pipe. I actually got his pipe fixed.
Well, don't they often say that the sense of smell is like one of the number one things that triggers somebody's memory?
Absolutely.
It's almost instinctual. I mean,
yeah.
I guess this is how dogs can tell point A from point B, right? And they just are hypersensitive to it. But that basic skill set is something that even though we don't have the same degree, it is often smells. The smell of the cookies that your mother used to bake, the smell of, what your garage, when your dad was working on the car in the garage, these smells they give you a real visceral feel that's, they really recall a lot of memories. So it doesn't surprise me. That's the way a lot of people feel about just cigars in general. They remember their grandfather or their dad used to smoke cigars and they have a very pleasant, memories associated with that aroma. And they look at the aroma of a cigar much different than somebody that just thinks all cigars are stinky. But yeah, definitely with the pipes, all pipe tobaccos, the room note is a very, it's much more diverse in pipe tobaccos, the variants of the room notes.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And in fact, just sharing this with you, I got my granddad's pipe fixed. You could see the shank was cracked, and then he put a nickel cover over the top. I smoke out of it. I smoke only aromatics, because that's really all he ever smoked out of his pipes.
Right.
So I'm going to stay true specifically for
I'm
this
the
one
same
pipe.
way. I have pipes that are dedicated for aromatics, and I have pipes that are dedicated for vapors, and I have pipes that are dedicated for English. I'm not to the level that I have one pipe, but there's one particular tobacco. It's the only tobacco I smoke out of that pipe. I just don't want any other tobacco to taint it in any way whatsoever. Yeah, I think that's pretty common. Now, luckily for us, so we are going to launch the holiday 2022 this year's trade show and make it part of the core line, because it had a fantastic response when we did it as the holiday release, and then we actually had twice as big a response when we did it as a reissue for the Christmas in July thing. And look, and I said this to you before the program started. Look, it's my job to put cigars in boxes that people want to smoke, and it's very apparent to me that they really like that 22 blend. So we're gonna make that blend, and it's gonna have the blue band, not the white band, and it'll be called. I wanted just to say aromatic, number 2022, but it ended up too long on the band, so it's just going to be aromatic number 22. So the aromatic number 22 that we'll offer to our retailers in March of this upcoming year will be that holiday blend, and it'll be available year round for those people that want to buy it. It'll be interesting. Will they want to buy it the same way they wanted to buy it when it was a limited, production item? We'll see, but it'll live or die on its own, but it will be made available for people that are asking for it.
No, that makes me so happy. Absolutely makes me so happy. I actually have something to show you. So I had your friend, close friend, on the show last night from Cornell and Diehl, or last week from Cornell and Diehl. We had Jeremy Reeves on, and I actually tried to love Jerry. He's my everything pipe encyclopedia.
Yeah, he is that.
He's too humble to admit it, so I always have to be the one to say it. But we gave away a Meerschaum cigar pipe nubber, and I was just wondering, have you ever seen a Meerschaum nubber?
I have.
I have not seen these until this year.
Yeah.
This is actually Marshall Scott Henry's. I got to send it to him. He was hoping to win something tonight, so maybe I'll send him a little bit bigger box. Yeah. But so how has that been? You've had the Stillwell line out for some time now. You've had the holiday out. What's the receiving? Are you still having fun with it?
Yeah, look, it would be very easy to oversaturate it and make a ton of different things all the time. But I also have to be judicious about it. So, I mean, out of the core 4 expressions that there are currently in the core, aromatic number 1 is by far the number 1 seller. It's not even close. Aromatic number 1 literally sells like 8 times more than the other 3.
Why? Why do you think?
Look, because consumers like that aromatic pipe tobacco. I think that for a lot of cigar consumers, aromatic is really the only kind of pipe tobacco they really have any sort of relationship with or understanding of. But I mean, we still sell Bayou, it still sells. We still sell English, and we still sell Navy. Now, Navy's number 2, and then Bayou and the English are about equal. I think what will eventually happen is I'll probably take the Bayou and probably cease making it at some point. Not this year, because I don't have time. But I can see that by 2025, because if we're adding aromatic number 22, the brand now has 5 cores, and it doesn't really need 5 cores. So we'll probably take the Bayou out. But then what I'll do is I think that the next year's holiday, I'm going to end up making it a more traditional pipe tobacco. So I basically did an aromatic style last year. I did an aromatic style for this year. So I think for this upcoming Christmas, the intent will be to make a much heavier, fuller bodied. I'm kind of leaning towards one of the Balkan blends that I'm working on right now to be that holiday. I mean, I'll find it interesting. I don't know how consumers will receive it because they would have basically had 2 years in a row of it being an aromatic experience. And here I'm going to give them something that's like totally the absolute opposite of it. So it may not be as well received. But I mean, part of the fun with Stillwell is the fact that it is an experimental. It's something different. It's something unique. It's a flavor profile and an aroma that you're just not going to get anywhere else. So for me, part of what makes the line interesting is the fact that it is different. Even if you don't like it all, or even if you don't like any of it, you can't say that you've ever smoked anything like any of them. You know what I mean? Or certainly not anything exactly like them. And for me, that's part of what makes Stillwell interesting, which is the same reason why I like pipe tobaccos, because there's just so much variety. You get to try so many different things, you know, being a pipe smoker, because it's so much less expensive as a pipe smoker. You buy a tin of high quality tobacco, or 2 ounces of pipe tobacco. You know, I mean, but even the top end stuff, you're like $16 to $18, right? For the very tippy top end. And you basically end up getting like 18 bowls worth for $18. It's almost like it costs you about $1 a smoke. You know what I mean? So I mean, a lot of like, I mean, I probably personally, in my own personal pipe tobacco collection, I probably have 600 different tins of pipe tobacco.
You know? All opened or aging?
No, I have probably about 100 aging. Okay, and I'm not counting those. I'm talking about like 600 unique different things.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, but you think about it, you've been smoking for so many years. It's not a big deal. You go onto a website or you go into a store and there's like all these things you haven't tried before, and give me a tin of this and give me a tin of that and give me a tin of that. And you walk out of the store with 4 or 5 things that you've never tasted, and you basically spent $60, $70. Right.
Plus, you also told me that when you and I were talking about this last year, you also told me that you will actually take a tobacco that you like and then do your own little critique or your own little changes to it of adding a little bit
mixed tobaccos. Like if there's something I like in one, you know, like and where I'm really guilty of this a lot of times I'll sprinkle a little bit of my favorite aromatic in a much heavier, like English style blend. Okay. You know, because I tend to smoke more English personally than anything else. That tends to be what I smoke the most. And I don't tend to smoke a lot of straight aromatics. They're just too aromatic for me, just too sweet. And so what I'll do is I'll take a fuller bodied or even a mild English, and I'll just add a touch of some of my favorite aromatics and mix it up in a bowl to just give it a slight little bit of an aromatic hint to it. Now, I wish I could get away with that in a cigar, but you got to work with the cigar tobacco. So it's one thing when all you have is pipe tobacco and that's all that's in the bowl that's competing, right? So it's much easier to spice an existing pipe blend. Whereas I don't know if I could create an English aromatic that would be successful in a cigar. You know what? I'll make it a project. And let's see. Somewhere in the future, I'll try it. See if I can make it work. You know what I mean? But the problem is you're getting into notes that are just so much more subtle. And I don't know that most cigar smokers are going to pick them up. Like, I think, look, Bayou is one of the best blends as far as I'm concerned. But I think the Bayou cigar is the one that is the most enigmatic to most cigar smokers. They don't understand what makes this a pipe cigar. They don't understand what that kind of blend is supposed to taste like. So I've started making Stillwells where I'm not using pre-blended ingredients, but I'm using where I'm just doing straight Latakia or straight Perique or straight white cube burley, right? So rather than actually having a pipe blend embedded in a cigar, I'm actually taking an ingredient, which, look, there's plenty of pipe smokers that smoke these ingredients straight too, because they just happen to love the taste of a dark burley, and they will smoke a bowl full of just dark burley, right? But it makes the note of that dark burley, when it's the only thing in the cigar blend, become more pronounced. So I think that where Bayou may not cut it because of the Golden Virginia cutting into the Perique, maybe making something that's just straight Perique that's embedded in a cigar, maybe that'll translate better to the cigar smoker. I mean, that's the beauty of the project. You have so much flexibility. There's so many different things you can do. You can really just go crazy with it. But I also have to think commercially. If I make it, I got to sell it. I got to convince a retailer to give it space on the shelf. So I can create 8 million different things. Like I have the TGS release coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a TGS release for the last 4 consecutive. This will be my 4th year, right? I think this year's number is, so first year was 38. The second one was blend 78. Last year's was 127. This year was number 153. So for me to get to 153 means there was 152 before, of which I only used 3 as part of the TGS releases, right? So it's very easy for me to make a lot of different experimental things, but you can't sell it all. There's no way to sell it all. Not all of it's worth selling, okay?
Sure.
It's like I made 153 great experimental blends, and all 153 are worthy, but out of the 153, probably a good 40 or 50 of them you could probably put in a box and sell them, and it would be regarded as a really good cigar. But you can't, because you got to think about how you sell it, how you distribute it, how you get the retailer to stock it. How do you tell the story to the consumer? So, doing this as the TGS project every year, so 153 is the number, but I think right now I'm already up to like 182 or 184. I'm somewhere there already, so it may turn out that blend 154, even though I'm already at the 180, will be the one, or maybe it'll be number 216 if I get that far. I don't know where I'll get to over the course of the next 6 or 7 months, but you can't release everything. It's just not practical.
Well, Derek Johnson's wanting a Latakia bomb in the Stillwell Star, he said in the comments for 2024. I do have a question. When you first released Stillwell, you had come on the show and we had talked about the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. And you gave us 2 numbers. In fact, I think my show was the one where you talked about how the Navy was actually your boat number.
Right. 1056.
And yep. And then aromatic number 1 is the first one.
Right.
Are you at a point where you're willing to give away the hints for the other 2 numbers?
27 is my favorite number on roulette. And since English tobaccos are my favorite, that's the reason why it was designated as 27. And then we'll leave Bayou out for the next episode.
Wow. Okay. So that's awesome. So 27, everybody, is his favorite roulette number. I had been trying to think about what that was, because you had said that you were going to maybe try to put together.
And the first time I hit a big roulette win was when I was in a casino in London. So it's kind of a combination of, I like English tobaccos. My first big roulette win where I hit like some real money was on a straight up bet on 27. So that's why I became 27. Yeah, the numbers have no relationship. Unlike the EXs that I do for TGS, where it's just the serial number of the blend as I go along with the developmental projects. The other numbers are chosen for some sort of arbitrary bullshit reason that I decide I just want to choose that number.
Now, for the Stillwell line, you have right. There's only so many different types of cigar tobacco.
Right.
It's not that way inside the pipe world. There's a ton, and then come to find out that the style of cube,
the cut makes the difference. How it's processed makes the difference. Like with the Navy, we actually make that into cake, because pressing that tobacco into a cake actually really changes the way that tobacco tastes. So we take the tobacco, So like you can do tobacco in plugs, you can do tobacco in ropes, you can do tobaccos in cakes, you can do
Knots, yeah.
tobaccos, and you can do various different types of shreds on it, and all of them impact the taste. So we actually take the navy cake and we ribbon cut the navy, but then we form it into these bricks and compress it really, really tight, and we leave it in that brick format for a certain amount of time. And then we actually go through and we have to hand shred it all back apart. So we actually create a lot of work in the navy because it was the way we needed it for the cigar. Okay. And then we made it into a cake to then have to go ahead and take that cake back apart, get it to back the way it was before we caked it. But the process of caking it has a dramatic impact on how that tobacco ultimately tastes. So we go ahead and we do the effort to do that cake. And look, it's just one of the things that we do, and that's the reason again. That's why, Stillwell Star. It's not an inexpensive cigar. You as a consumer, you're spending what I think the retail on it's like $16.35 or something, right? So the fact that I think caking the tobacco and then disassembling it actually helps to improve it. Well, it's built into the price of the product.
No, for sure. And for those of you that are not pipe smokers that don't know what caking means, it's essentially the entire blend put into a huge press and left there for several hours. And what that does is that instead of it being loose together, that presses all the oils and melds it like a chili the next day together. And then you break it back apart, and now you have that.
Well, normally you don't break it back apart. Normally the consumer would buy it in a cake.
Yes, that's what I mean.
And then they would hand crumble the cake, right? Mm-hmm. When they're ready to smoke it, they would break a piece of the cake off, and then they would put it between their palms, and they would rub it out to get it back to the texture they need to smoke it in their pipe. So I mean, we're having to hand rub all of that navy tobacco because we chose to cake it, but it tastes different doing it in a cake versus leaving it loose.
So this
that's a flake. So what that would have been is that would have been a cake. What they ended up doing is after it was a cake, they then made slices of the cake. So that would be what you would call a slice or a flake tobacco that way.
And the look of it, it's
right.
Yeah, so that's essentially what that is. Somebody asked a question here in the comments, and I've actually never thought about this before because I just love the cigar, and I've never thought about it being without. But Chris asks, what would the Stillwell be without any pipe tobacco?
It'd be a good medium cigar, but it wouldn't be extra special. I mean,
would you ever consider a pipe tobacco list?
Because the cigar was blended, the cigar blends are made to hopefully allow for the pipe tobacco to show through the blend. You know what I mean? So I think that the Stillwell blend without the pipe tobacco in it, I think it would be rather ho-drum. I don't think it would be. It is. It's a little bit boring. You know what I mean? It's, because the cigar is meant to be there as the vehicle to have the pipe tobacco. So it's a kind of a careful balance as to how rich you make the cigar blend. Because when you smoke a Stillwell, it doesn't taste the same as you smoking a pipe. A pipe experience is different. What a Stillwell gives you is it gives you the essence of, is what it's giving you. It's giving you a glimpse, a snapshot, into what those pipe tobaccos are like to smoke them. But in the end, it's still a cigar. But you definitely need that condiment of the pipe tobacco to make that blend even have any real value, in my opinion, to smoke.
Now, there was a question earlier, and I just know that you love this question because this is your favorite size cigar of all time. Are we ever going to get a Stillwell Star Lancero?
No, you probably won't.
It couldn't happen, I don't think.
Yeah, there's just not enough room to do a Stillwell Star Lancero. You're essentially talking about making a black and mild, right? And a black and mild is, done by machine. in that ring gauge. There's just not enough space. If you smoked something in that ring gauge with the pipe tobacco in it, it would just flutter and ash all over the place. It would be like a sparkler almost. You know what I mean? I don't think there's a practical way to do it.
Now, I did not get the opportunity. I have not had the opportunity to try the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone line. I have your Exclusivo line, and I know through much of my heartache that the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone line is gone.
Yeah,
but is there
whatever there is out in the wild?
Is there any potential for addition? I know
Lanceros
isn't your
this is
favorite.
the beauty of being me. I have no scruples whatsoever. Okay, so I'm going to milk the Lancero junkies for serious money in 2024. Yeah, I am going to.
We'll give it to you.
I'm going to totally rock their world. They have no idea what's coming. I'll just tell you. I'm going to make a special sample. I'm going to type it in. It's going to be let me get it in the chat box because it'll be easier if I type it.
Exclusive Rocky Mountain Cigar Show Smoking Studio exclusive right here.
I'm going to release a limited production.
Go fuck yourself.
Lancero collection. Yeah. And
what is up with your collections with fuck yourself? You did the same thing with the brulee.
No. That was the So Taste for Yourself collection.
I thought it was shut the fuck up.
And this stands for Good for You. I don't even know what you're talking about. So this is going to be the Good for You Lancero collection. Yeah. And what I'm doing is I have made. I don't know whether there's 7 Lanceros or 10 Lanceros in the box yet. I'm still going through the final blends. They're actually sitting on my desk right now, and they're going to be numbered 1 through whatever. Okay. And I'm not going to tell anybody what they are, except there'll be 1 Lancero in it that'll be labeled, hashtag good for you. And that's going to be a Candela Lancero. It's literally going to be just the most disgusting of disgusting, the worst shape with the worst wrapper, because people are always asking me to make Lanceros, and they're always asking me to make Candela, and I hate both of these things. So I'm just going to get all the misery into one cigar. And in fact, that cigar is so bad. I smoked them today, actually. Just literally, in my opinion, just absolutely dreadful. We're not even going to charge for that one. I can't in good conscience. So if there's 10 cigars in the box, you will pay for 9, and the go fuck yourself will be free. Or if there's 7 in the box, 6 of them you're going to pay for. The 7th one and the price of the box is going to be free, because I just can't charge somebody for a Candela Lancero. My soul won't allow it to happen. I don't want to arrive at the pearly gates and St. Peter said, "Remember when you charged people for that Candela Lancero, dude?" I can't do it. So yes, there will be in 2024 the Go Fuck Yourself Lancero collection.
Can I give you money now? Are you taking pre-orders? Is this going to be like a smoke it, or is this going to be
So we're gonna take pre-orders at the trade show. So the retailers that come to the trade show or are paying attention, they'll have the opportunity to order it, because I am not making this on spec. Okay. This thing, I'm going to make these specifically for the people that are dumb enough to buy them. That's what they're going to be made for. I am not making tens of thousands of extra Lanceros to put into the marketplace. I'm not doing that. So bother your retailer now if it's something you think you're going to be interested in, but it's going to be literally 7 or 10 different Lancero blends in the box. I have to figure out how much money I lose by giving away the bad one for free. So I may have to make it 9 just to kind of like, okay, this isn't too painful for me to have my personal joke, because I do have to run it as a business.
Of course. Your personal joke is our gain, though, because us Lancero nuts are big fans. I'm going to really ask you a question that's going to drive you up your mind right now. Sale says He wants a Candela Lancero unicorn. I don't see that coming.
What is that? How do you make a Lancero unicorn? A unicorn's a Vitola. A Lancero is a unicorn. How does that work?
I don't know. I was hoping you were going to explain it.
I don't understand the question, Sal.
So there's actually another unicorn question here that Sal actually does ask. What's the difference between the three unicorns?
They're all three significantly different blends. I mean, they're not at all. I mean, they share the same Vitola. They're in the unicorn Vitola, but they're three totally distinctive blends. I mean, the original unicorn blend is a blend onto itself that has no other reference in the portfolio that it's similar to. And then, of course, the Mi Querida Black is an adaptation of the Mi Querida Black, but made in the unicorn shape. And the Sobremesa Brulee Blue Unicorn is a variation of the Brulee Blue blend made into a unicorn. So, I mean,
that stubby unicorn was incredible last year.
Oh, the chubby. Yeah,
the chubby for the 25th day of the Smokin' Advent. I opened that and I about shit.
I really love the chubby unicorn. I ought to actually make that one.
That was absolutely great. I apologize for saying stubby. I meant chubby.
Yeah, chubby, stubby. It's the same thing. I mean,
so here's what I'm asking.
Chubby unicorns are really, really good blend. I mean, look, again, you can only do so much. Look, I mean, come on. If you're a Dunbarton Tobacco, like if you follow us and you support the brand, I fucked your wallet so hard in 2022. I mean, I really did. There were so many projects. I mean, it was just a year of banger after banger after banger after banger, right? And look, it's not going to stop. On January 4th, there's going to be the TGS exclusive. And then in January, we're shipping Copetta. And then on February 2nd is when the whole new redo of the famous 80th is going to come out. And it's going to come out as an ongoing project for Famous. And instead of it being one size, there's 4 sizes. So there's like no mercy. And then I'm going to get to the trade show and I got other things. I mean, really, honestly, I honestly think if you're a Dunbarton person, you should just stop because I'm just going to crush your wallet. I'm going to just ruin any sort of hope of retirement because I just keep doing all of these projects. I mean, it's such a plethora of work product. I mean, look, I don't think there's anyone that's as prolific at making blends as I have been in the last 8 years. I mean, I make so much. I make so much compared to just think of what, big factories do that just have, people that are dedicated to the branding and people that are dedicated to the sales and people that are dedicated to the marketing and people that are dedicated to the tobacco and people that are dedicated to, the blending and people that are dedicated to the production. And I mean, the amount of just sheer volume of work that I have been putting into the marketplace, it's just beyond crazy what we have been putting out into the market. And, to toot my own horn, none of it has sucked.
No.
I mean, none of it has sucked. There's going to be things you like better than other things. That's just the way it's going to work. We all know that. But I don't think that there's been any real dogs. You know what I mean? It's like, oh wow, he really screwed the pooch on this one. I can't believe it. You think eventually just the law of averages, you think eventually I'm just going to totally fuck this up.
Well,
right?
Well, Steve, I look at it like this. And I'm being honest, and I've said this to you even before you were part of the show. I think of Dunbarton as kind of like a Michelin style restaurant. You have your favorite dishes, but every dish is exquisite, regardless if it's not your favorite. There are no bad cigars that I've had personally from your catalog.
I mean, but the job is to not make bad cigars, right? I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You're only supposed to make cigars that have some value to smoke.
Yeah, but there's some companies that release 30 blends a year, and you're like, how could you keep up with that type of quality? Versus you just said earlier in the show, I made them take back 60K cigars because they didn't hit my standards. Somebody else might not have done that. And that's really what separates Dunbarton from other blends. Like you've said, you're not your everyday cigar smoker. You're for the aficionado.
But at the same time, I'm not doing it as a charitable act either. Look, no. I'm asking the customer to pay me a fair value for what that product costs to make it that way. And what ends up happening is the customer gets to determine whether it's worth the price of admission. If they don't feel like it is, then it isn't. You know what I mean? There's nothing I can do about that. But if I'm going to make something, I'm going to put it in a box. I think there has to be some sort of intrinsic value that warrants me asking for what the price is, and that I can, I don't want to feel like a charlatan. You know what I mean? I want to feel like I'm giving people. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, everybody knows I don't like Lanceros. Okay. The fact that I'm jamming 10 Lanceros in a box, I personally wouldn't buy any of the goddamn things. Okay. It's part of
I'll buy your box.
But here, when I say that, I'm also the guy that's made the 2 best-selling Lanceros in the last 15 years. The 2 best-selling Lanceros in the marketplace are the L40 for Liga Privada and then the Now Leave Me Hell Alone. So here I am, the guy that's telling you I don't really like these things, okay? But it doesn't mean that I just try to mail it in because Lanceros are hot. I try to make the very best Lancero that I possibly can to put it in the box. Now, when there's 10 in the box, guess what? None of them will be as good. Well, maybe. It depends on what you like. But, I mean, I don't think any of them will be as refined. Well, I will say one of the 10 will be a Now Leave Me the Hell Alone. I'm not going to tell which number will be the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone. But I am going to put a Now Leave Me the Hell Alone in there. So, but I mean, and that was the one that I ultimately chose, when I was doing all those Lanceros. I mean, all these Lanceros that are going in the collection, except for the Go Fuck Yourself one, the Candela one, they were all Lanceros that I made when I was doing the blending to make the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone Lancero. So this is me taking work that I did 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't even remember anymore. All runs together and just like, okay, you know what? Number 16 didn't suck. It's bad. Number 32 wasn't so shitty. You know what I mean? That's
I love how you talk about Lanceros.
In fact, you know what? I was thinking I was just going to number them 1 through 9 and then the GFY. Maybe I'll actually number them the numbers that I used that were the blend numbers of where they were in the progression. So
you should.
And that way,
us geeks would like to know that.
Then that'll be a little bit interesting because when I then disclose which one was the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone, I wonder how many people will even guess which one's the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone. Because the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone, I'll just give this away right now. The Now Leave Me the Hell Alone was not the last one. So it wasn't blend 67 or blend 68. Okay, I did not choose the final blend to be the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone. When I got to the end of the rainbow. So yeah, the more I think about it, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll actually put the real numbers on the Lancero blends.
That would be great because us geeks would like to know that. I know I personally would. We are about to do our drawing for the final prizes, but I have one request from absolutely everybody watching right now. I assume everybody watching is part of the Saka group on Facebook, as well as most likely part of the Smoking group on Facebook. I don't care where you are. Wherever you are, let's make this a hashtag that goes around. All right. As this was announced on the show, for my knowledge, first time on any show.
Yeah.
So let's make this hashtag go famous. Post this everywhere, tag this everywhere. I want to see it.
I gotta tell you right now, retailers are not gonna want to buy this. So if consumers don't tell them that they want to buy this, there's no chance in hell of retailers ordering these damn things because they're like, really? Because they don't want to buy Lanceros. They don't. They do not want. There's a few shops in this country that like Lanceros and they promote Lanceros, but literally, if I pulled 100 retail accounts, you'd be lucky if 2 out of the 100 actually want to ever carry a Lancero. They get forced into it. That's the only reason they carry it.
And it's crazy because that's one of the original sizes or one of the old school sizes of cigars.
People just don't buy them.
No, absolutely. I mean, I get it. I get it. They're more temperamental.
Consumers are like, well, why do they make so many 6x64s? I don't understand who smokes these things. Manufacturers wouldn't make them if consumers didn't buy them, right? I would love to make a ton of Coronas, okay, but I can't because retailers won't buy them. We have a hard enough time convincing a retailer to carry a Gordita and Mi Querida or a number 448 and Tricky Traca. They're two of the best cigars in our portfolio. They're really exceptional little smokes, right? But they don't like to carry them because there are consumers that do buy them, but there's so few compared to the people that just buy Toros and Robustos. They don't want to suck up a shelf space to put that product on the shelf.
No, I totally understand. I tell people, I'm one of those guys that will ask to carry Lanceros, and I will buy a box at a time. I find that most Lancero guys will buy like 1 or 2. I do buy boxes. I am a big Lancero guy.
How did you miss the Now Leave Me Hell Alone? It's been in the marketplace for like 4 damn years.
Just money, dude. It's just it's expense,
God
man.
Bless you. Yeah, I hear you.
I have a single family income. And I have your Exclusivo, and
dude, you gotta get that sugar baby work, man. Not sugar daddy, sugar baby. You gotta figure out how to get that sugar baby money.
Well, I tell you, I'll show you. I would love to get one. I'm going to. I have access to get one. I'm going to get a box. I just haven't. I haven't jumped on that, but that's definitely there.
Yeah.
So everybody in all your social media groups, all your cigar groups, hashtag GFY Lancero. Let's make that very famous, as I am very much first up in line to buy that box. I will be telling my wife that's going to be
when I announced what the name was going to be today at the meeting, Laffy almost busted a gut. He just couldn't stop laughing. It's like so perfect,
Thank you so much, sir. No, that is. And again, I'm not surprised. So you actually threw me off when you said "good for you." I was like, "There's no way that stands for good for you." But no, in all seriousness, I'm excited for this. When do we get to see this actually hit shelves? I know you're taking pre-orders. Are you looking?
You probably won't see it until the fall because we'll debut it at the trade show. But I won't let anyone smoke it because there's just no reason. They don't care. They really don't. These retailers don't care. There's no point in it. So we'll show it at the trade show. We'll probably leave the order window open for about 30 days. And then whatever they order. Look, it's the same way as every time. It's like, look, we're out of holidays, right? All the holiday 2023s are gone. And we already have customers are like, oh, do you have another 10 boxes? Do you have another 20 boxes? And we're like, no, dude, you ordered 8 and we sent you 8 and you got what you got. And that's the way it is, because I mean, I can't, it's one thing if I make too many Sobra Mesa El Americanos or I make too many Sin Compromiso number 5s. They just age a little longer in the cool room. I end up having a little bit more boxes in my warehouse for a little while longer. You can always sell them. But if I make too many holidays, what happens when the holiday is gone and I'm now sitting at March of 2024? How do you sell holiday 2023s, right? The retailer is going to want a discount, a serious discount, right? Like, oh, that's the old shit. You know what I mean? So when it comes to certain things like that, I have to make these to what the demand actually is. So, and what ends up happening is the retailers eventually they figure it out, like whenever we launch a Moester to Saka, people like, Smoke In and Small Batch, they order hundreds of boxes, out of the gate. They have no idea what it's going to taste like, but they know there will be enough demand for it that they don't feel that risk. But, when they started, they would only buy 20 boxes. They'd only buy 30 boxes. They would buy, in fact, the first time Small Batch ordered a Micallef to Saka, they actually ordered 200 boxes. It was the biggest Micallef order we ever got for one single retailer, 200 boxes. And I actually talked them into just, no, dude, it's just too risky, man. Let's just sell 100 boxes. I'm going to cut your order in half, because I didn't want them to get stuck with them, right? Yeah. I didn't know. And then they were pissed off at me like, I wanted 200 boxes. You only sold me 100, and they were gone on the first day. And now I've got none. You screwed me, Saka. I mean, I don't want to oversell anybody stuff that they aren't going to be able to turn. You know what I mean? I want to, kind of goes back to the business is only good if it's for both people. And overselling a retailer and them getting stuck with a ton of boxes isn't good for my business either. It's good in the moment, but then what happens the next time they go to order? Well, man, I got burned the last time I bought Micallef to Sakas. I bought 200 boxes and I sold 32, and I still got these boxes 3 years later. So we try really hard to, not to intentionally limit it, but to also just try to manage it in a way that it's good for everybody in the end. And look, and you know how it works with Micallefs. We have that initial launch, and there's only so many that are made, but we make more Micallefs, but we don't make as many as we make for the initial drop, because we don't know how many retailers are going to ultimately order. But we put the Micallefs, we put one pair on it. Okay, so we make the Micallefs, we get them all made, we ship our 3,000 boxes on the initial drop, and then we basically, we're going to make about 300 boxes every month and see how it goes. And if it turns out that the demand is greater than 300, then we'll make 600 every month and see how that goes, because I'm not trying to intentionally limit these products. I mean, I don't make money selling vaporware. I make money by selling cigars that people smoke. So the only thing that we artificially limit is unicorns. But everything else, we have no idea how many Halligans to make. We had no idea how many red meat lovers to make. You know what I mean? When we're making them as an individual drop, we're sticking our finger in the air and going, we think this is how many are likely to sell. And, we make our best faith effort. You always hate it when you're like, shit, I should have made more. I wish I would have known that. It's not like I don't want the money. It's not like the retailer doesn't want the money. It's not like we're trying to intentionally deprive people. But what if I make 2,000 boxes of whatever Don Derma, and it turns out that Ronnie can only sell 800? What's he going to do with the other 1,200 boxes? What am I going to do with the extra? What am I going to do with the extra 1,200 boxes? I can't just sell them to other retailers, but then I'm fucking my friend Ronnie, who's done everything under the moon to promote the brand Don Derma, right? So, I mean, I don't want to screw him either and sell Don Derma to someone else when he's put in all the hard work, right?
I bought a box of the Golden Childs. Amazing.
So, it's always a bit of a balancing game, figuring out what's the right amount to make. And every year, if the sales continue to increase, we make more. We made more Federal 100s this year. We made more Don Derma this year. We made more of the Rockies U-boat this year than the previous year. We made more Barbara Amarias than we made in the first year's drop. So it's just a question of what's the comfort level, because there's a lot of risk in making cigars that if they don't end up selling.
No, absolutely. That's money out of your pocket just to sit on the shelf or sit in your inventory. Yeah. And that's not smart business, Yeah. And,
like I said, if it's a core product, I just don't pack as many Sin Compromiso number 5s. I don't pack as many Sober Mesa Brulee Toros, but I'm selling, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of boxes on a regular basis of Sober Mesa Brulee Toros. So the fact that I've got an extra 1,000 boxes in my warehouse doesn't matter, because they're going to sell. Okay. They will. I don't have to sweat it. I slow down production. I'm going to have too much production backed up in the cool rooms for 6 to 8 months. So, I got an extra 100,000 cigars that I don't really need right now, but I'm going to need them anyways. So you'll pull a pair off from Sober Mesa Toro and you'll put them onto something else, and you'll let the best pair keep making them, and you'll just slow your inventory growth on that. But that's the difference between something that's a core continuous product that you're always turning. It's entirely a different thing when it's something like a Halligan, where it's, hey, one shot to this retailer, annual drop.
No, and I mean, the Don Derma Golden Child was absolutely fucking tastic. So,
I personally like the Golden Child much better than the regular Don Derma.
Oh, dude, it was
Ronnie likes the Don Derma better, but he's wrong. So you know,
but he's wrong.
I mean, but again, it's kind of goes back to what do you like in a cigar, right? I can see why somebody would prefer the traditional Don Derma blend over the Golden Child blend, right? They're two very distinctly different blends. In fact, the Don Derma Golden Child is not a reiteration of the Don Derma blend. The Don Derma Golden Child is a different blend.
Totally.
Okay. It's a much different blend. It shares a few tobaccos, but I look at it as it isn't like a tweak the same way as Mi Querida to Mi Querida Tricky Traca. I can see the Golden Child. I can see a person really loving the Golden Child and Don Derma being flat. I can see somebody really loving Don Derma and feeling like the Golden Child is too harsh and too strong. You know what I mean? I can see that because they are really two very distinctive types of expressions.
No, they very much are. I like the Don Derma Golden Child. I like that heavier. I like that stronger cigar personally. So, well, we're gonna get in here. We have 2 hats, 1 pink, 1 gray to still giveaway, 1 mug, 2 squatches, and the coveted crystal ashtray. I have no idea who's going to win this. So we've got 51 entries leaving the screen up here from the last drawing so everybody could see.
You want to let everybody, I mean, there might be new people that join though. I would have them.
It grabs it. It grabs it.
So if anyone types hashtag A now, it'll also grab them.
Yes, but you've already done it and you're already in there. So it's got 52.
I just did it as an example for the people that maybe didn't do it before.
Correct. So if you would not do hashtag A, please go ahead and do it. We've got 52 entries and currently we have 58 people watching live. So we are at, I think the number everybody's already typed in. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel. This is for the gray beanie. We have Sal.
Sal's a double dipper.
For the gray, no, Sal is not a double dipper.
Oh, no?
No, Sal was just in comments today. Sal. So we've got Sal. I have it set up to only 1 winner per win. Next, we have for the pink beanie. I got to write down Sal's last name. I just wrote down Sal, and I might totally forget. We have Eduardo. Just to let everybody know, again, you have to live in the United States for me to ship this to you.
Dude, that was so racist, the fact that you said that after Texador. Come on.
No, it's not. It's nothing to do with Texador.
Eduardo, come on, man.
I could have said it after Sal. I could have said it after Sal. Oh, my gosh. All right. Steve throwing me under the bus
Eduardo. Here. Ignore him.
Eduardo and Sal, please reach out to me on Facebook Messenger and send me your information to ship you the hat. Next up, we have the mug. Let's see who is coming in here. We've got Dan Grillo. Dan, you have to be living in the continental United States to get. Just wanted to throw that out. I will say that after every drawing now.
Oh, man.
All right. Next up, we have Marshall Marshall, you held out. Marshall's birthday is tomorrow. Marshall won that beautiful Meerschaum pipe cigar number last week. Now he won again. Marshall, you won a Saka Squatch. All right, Marshall's package just got more expensive to ship. With pleasure. Next up, the last Saka mug that the last Saka Squatch that we have coming up here.
Saka. Come on, Saka.
Right. We've got Brian Lewis. Brian, reach out to me and send me your information.
Brian's a really good guy, man.
Brian is a good guy. Now we have the coveted crystal ashtray.
So so you're saying that the people that have currently won are not in the crystal ashtray?
I'm resetting it for the ashtray.
Yeah, let's reset it and do a new hashtag.
I mean, all right.
If they've listened to us blabber on for 2+ hours, everybody should be in the ashtray drawing. I mean, come on.
Totally. So I agree. So Steve gets to make that decision and that rule. So Steve overrules me on that.
I'm going to give you the hashtag that you need to type in to enter it.
There you go.
So hold on a second. I am typing it right now. So when it comes through in the comment, that is the hashtag that you use to enter in for the ashtray.
Right here, everybody. Just so
Quentin, that's wrong. Derek, that's wrong.
Right? It's got to be exactly this.
Food Candy understood the assignment. Thank you.
Jeez, I feel like Abe sometimes.
Yeah, like Jim Boyle doesn't understand. Jason Hawkins doesn't understand. See, Marshall got it. Come on, Higgins. You missed the boat there. Redo it.
Everyone's got 60 seconds. 60 seconds to put this
if they
in.
Can't figure this out in 60 seconds. They're too dumb to own the ashtray. They don't deserve it. Come on. How much easier can I make it? I type exactly what you got to copy. Come on.
Just copy and paste it, people. Just copy and paste it.
Tess. Come on, Tess. You didn't even spell it right. You added a space in there. I know you're smarter than that. Redo that, Tess, so you're in the contest.
I don't know what's more fun, watching everybody get it right or watching Steve analyze everybody.
I just want to make sure as many people as possible can get on this. Because look, I'm already out the ashtray, right? So for me, it doesn't matter. There could be 1,000 people in it and still one ashtray. So the more people that are in it, the better for me.
All right, 20 seconds. I'm literally looking at my countdown here. 10 seconds.
That was a quick 10.
Yeah.
20, yeah.
No. I got too rambunctious on that one. We've got 10 seconds right now. 10 seconds.
Oh, Chris Duque. I think if someone wins in Hawaii, I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah, I'll send it to you in Hawaii.
What he doesn't want to do is he doesn't have to fill out a customs declaration. He doesn't want there to be taxes involved. So, I mean, that's the issue.
All right. So, let me make sure I type it in correctly as well. All right. Let's see here. We've got everybody in. Here we go for the drawing. Let's bring this back up. All right. And here we go. No crying. This is it. Coveted ashtray. Who's it go to?
Oh my God, that's perfect. You can't plan this shit. How many people were in that spin?
Almost 30.
All right. So here's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
We're obviously gonna respin, right? We're obviously gonna respin, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a cutter to it. So whoever wins on the pay it forward spin will get the ashtray and the cutter. So you're looking at what?
Wow.
$650 value and prizes.
Holy shit, people!
So
This got
whoever
serious.
wins on this next spin will get the ashtray, and I'll get the cut, and they'll also get the cutter. But what you're going to have to do,
Amazing.
Ryan, is you're going to have to tell me who is the person, so
Of
I
course.
can also give me their shipping information, so I can send them the cutter.
Awesome.
So
All
there you
right.
go.
So this is ashtray cutter. So it was a good thing that Saka Claus won the ashtray.
Got to earn that
because
name, Saka Claus, right?
He became
Gotta
more
earn it.
giving.
Got
So
more
here
giving.
we go. Let's go one more spin. This is for everything. The cutter, the crystal ashtray, 2 coveted Dunbarton tobacco products here.
I don't think these 2 items have ever been
Ronnie!
given away together.
Ronnie!
Whoa! Ronnie!
Ronnie! Oh my gosh, Ronnie. And you already know who Ronnie is, so you probably have his info.
Yeah. Well,
awesome.
Yeah, Ronnie, you can just email me directly.
Absolutely incredible. Ronnie, congratulations and a Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Wow, what a win. Steve, thank you so much for sweetening the pot. Thank you so much for coming on, and truly thank you very much for making the cigars that you make, as you allow us to essentially just buy a little time for
it's
ourselves.
It's a really good relationship. I make cigars and you guys give me money. I love it. It's perfect. So thank you.
We love it too. Absolutely. And Steve, thank you so much for supporting the show, for coming on for the last episode of the entire year for me. It was an absolute pleasure. It's a privilege to call you friend. Everybody, Steve's cell phone number is below. Text him. No, I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, Steve, thank you very much for doing what you do, taking the pride you take and the love that you take for this industry, and not taking your customers for granted at all, producing high quality, great products. And I can't thank you enough for sweetening that final giveaway. That was very, very appreciative.
What are the odds?
I thought that was awesome. I was like, do I ship it back to you? Or So thank you very much, Steve, for supporting the show, for being on tonight. Thank you to all the show sponsors that make this show remotely possible. BAMF Cigars, ROCF Cigars, Kristoff, Berger, Sagrado Cigars, New Air, Humidors, Micallef Cigars, Big Sky.
Dude, Cornell, you're a pretty good pimp. Look at all these names. My God.
Cornell and Diehl Pipe Tobacco. This one's because of Steve that made that amazing cigar. I reached out. The first conversation I ever had with Jeremy was an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And he was on the show. They loved it. They came on to support La Aurora. And of course, Smoke In Cigars, as this is the Smoke In Studios at the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. Tonight, I drank the Axe and the Oak bourbon. What did you drink tonight, Steve?
I had the Old Forester 1920.
Fantastic.
Prohibition
Awesome.
Style.
Ooh.
I don't know what makes it prohibition. Oh, I guess because it's 115 proof. I didn't realize it was that high a proof.
That is very high proof.
Yeah. And
how many of me do you see?
I think that I actually think this bottle was gifted me by Jeremy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's where this bottle actually came from.
Well, I love Jeremy. He is an absolutely amazing person. I am so
Jeremy,
glad.
the bottle's already below half, so I need another bottle, man. Christmas is coming, dude, you know.
I'm sure he'll send it to you. I tried to get a little bit of holiday 2023 out of him last week, and Jeremy's ever the person that always is quiet. He goes, no, Steve's coming out next week. I'll let him talk about it. So thank you so much, Steve. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your night.
Yeah,
thank you for coming on.
Happy holidays to you, and happy holidays to everybody that stuck with us. Have a Merry Christmas. And, enjoy what today's day 8 for Hanukkah, I believe. So, tomorrow's day 8.
I think it was Thursday through Friday.
Okay. So there's got to be somebody Jewish here that can tell me which it is. I don't know why. I was thinking today was day 8. I could be wrong.
You might be right. I looked on Google. Google said Friday.
but we all know that Google is always correct. So,
hey, I Googled
I'll
it, right?
defer to Google.
So thank you to everybody who watched tonight. And from Steve and I, have an absolutely fantastic Christmas and a great new year. And until we see you all again, smoke what you like, smoke as often as you can, and have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone. Peace.